We are of a folklore heritage. We were conceived in the womb of beautiful words, birthed into a captivating world that we've spent eternity trying to name, tell, retell, and paint. Wrapped and cradled in stories, intsomi namabali. Our words create worlds. They transport, they mirror, they convict, they give lashings and hugs. They create and can never be undone. To hide between the pages of a book is to find pieces of yourself before you even were. Welcome to Turning Pages, the podcast that celebrates African literature from the continent and the diaspora. I'm your host, Vuvu Vena. I don't even know where to start. This has been a long time coming. You guys know that I've hinted here and there about the possibility of a podcast coming through from the Vuvu Vena Reads platform over on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And I'm so glad that finally the day has arrived. Oh wow, guys, if you are listening to me, I just want you to understand how excited I am. This is very special to me, and I'm glad to be where you are, wherever you are. If you're driving, if you're at home, wherever you are, this is a big deal for me. So thank you so much for your support. This podcast was actually the result of the rant I did on my YouTube channel towards the end of last year. If it wasn't October, it was in September last year, where I was talking about being selective in our reading. If you haven't seen that episode, you can head over to my BookTube channel, which is just Vuvu Vena Reads on YouTube, and you can see what I was trying to say there. I had people agreeing, I had people disagreeing, but then what came off that conversation is what you are listening to right now, which is Turning Pages with Vuvu Vena. My basic foundation of what I was trying to say was that we have been deprived of African/South African literature in our schooling years for the longest time. Like, I remember the first time that I saw or could even keep to memory a character that was black in a book was in grade 12 when I read Shades by Marguerite Poland, and even the black character that was there was not really representative of me, even though the book was actually set in the Eastern Cape. It was set during the I think 1820s, if I'm not mistaken. It was a long time ago. My trick was a long time ago. I don't quite remember the year that it was set in, but that was definitely the first time I saw someone who could be like me in a book. And I first read books by black authors in varsity when I took English literature as a minor at Wits University. And two black authors that stand out for me specifically are xoxo and Toni Morrison. There were other authors of color, but their books did not impact me as much as xoxo and Toni Morrison's books did. That class led me to fall in love with Toni Morrison. However, she was obviously telling an American story from an American point of view. And while I love anything that is authored by black people, because I do feel like we have a certain way of telling stories, I couldn't fully identify because it's a world that I was not familiar with. And some of the South African literature that I was coming across was really very focused on apartheid settings and things that happened in the past. And so the battle of representation continued even past then. That for me was an eye-opener, being able to read those authors, and especially having to see one of them as successful as Toni Morrison has been in her literature career. Being female really had a good impact on me, a very positive impact on me. So from that conversation that I was trying to have on YouTube, I walked away from the conversation saying to myself, though I do not believe in exclusive reading, so you will find that in my reading selection, I really literally read almost anything. And in that conversation, I was kind of questioning the rising trend, especially around the South African literature space, to exclusively read books from certain authors and those authors alone. And I was basically saying there that this, I feel, perpetuates what we experienced. At some point, the exclusive reading was of white literature or Western literature, and now what we are doing in a sort of almost what looks to me to be a rebellious fashion is that we are reading exclusively African and South African authors, which I can't judge people for preference. I've got my own preferences when it comes to a lot of things. So what you choose as a preference is definitely up to you. We are all free to choose what we want to choose. However, I was questioning how closing our minds off to one culture in preference of another and intentionally doing so may be detrimental to what we are trying to do with opening up the literature space, in the sense that it allows people to fall in love with reading, period. So I don't mind people championing a cause, which is what this podcast is actually going to be about, because it will focus on African and South African literature, which I think, in terms of putting a microscope on, I have neglected in my other platforms. So I do not have a problem with people championing certain literature or certain authors. However, I am a little bit uncomfortable with people refusing to read from anywhere else, or from any other race, or from any other culture. So this is the reason why this platform was birthed, because even though I am somebody that reads across the spectrum, I have taken a decision to champion African literature, and especially South African literature. So this is gonna be an amazing journey, guys. I cannot wait. Like, I'm literally dancing in my chair right now. I am so excited. 2020 is gonna be amazing, amazing, amazing. So don't forget to tell your sister, tell your mom, tell your brother, tell your cousin, tell your father, tell your uncle, tell your auntie, tell everybody about the podcast. Okay. So basically, this podcast is one that is looking at African literature from the continent and the diaspora. It's also a place for conversation. So on here we will talk to authors, we will talk to publishers, we will talk to book lovers, we will talk to people who we've done buddy reads with. We will form a little club, and if you guys are interested in my book club, the Vuvu Vena Reads Book Club, please don't hesitate to follow my page and just leave me a message on there, my page on Facebook, and leave me a message on there that you'd like to be added to the book club. We have not selected a book yet because the book club is like basically non-existent, guys, at the moment. So first come, first member, it's that kind of situation. But it is something that I've been wanting to do, because I want to grow whatever occurs all across my platforms into something that can be even more interactive, where people can start having discussions about similar things, and who knows what could be birthed from that. So if you are interested in the Vuvu Vena Reads Book Club, don't forget to follow my page on Facebook and then ask to be added to the private group. So here we will be having conversations. Basically, it's a platform for conversations around African and South African literature across the board. So books that I've read, I will review. I will reach out to authors for interviews. I will reach out to publishers for interviews. So I'll have segments that are called author spotlights, where I actually do a little bit of brief feature on a certain author. I will also have brief features on certain publishers, and obviously, like I'm saying, we will also speak to other book lovers, other book clubs, and so on and so forth. So this is basically a hub, or a place where you can come to enjoy all things relating to South African first and African literature. I really hope that this is something that you've been looking for. I know that it's something that I've been longing for, which is why I came up with the podcast. And one of the best lessons that you have to learn, I think, as a creative, is to create things that you would consume. So part of this is, for me, I don't want to lie to you guys, it's something that I've been looking for, and there are obviously some examples of what I'm trying to do in the South African space already. So right now I'd like to shout out the OGs, Cheeky Natives. I really, really, really enjoy that podcast with Lehlohonolo and Dr. Alma, as well as Eusebius's Literature Corner. I mean, I don't know anyone who loves radio who doesn't enjoy Eusebius's channel. So that I've been enjoying, and I see that the Johannesburg review of books is also starting a podcast, or has already started one. So I'm just trying to familiarize myself with that one yet. I don't have an opinion at this point about that specific podcast, but it is out there. So what I'm trying to get at is that this is by no means something that is totally new, but it is something that is going to be different from what you have seen. So you might want to know how often I intend to post on here. I will be posting every single week. That is every single Tuesday, and I have some kind of structure to what I want to be doing. So basically most months will have 2 reviews. They will have an author spotlight and they will have a publisher spotlight. So how it's gonna go, especially for the first few months, or even more than just a few months, is that I will be reviewing books by the same author. So the 2 reviews in that month will be from the same author, and then the author spotlight will be that specific author, and then the publisher spotlight will be the publisher that published the books that I am reviewing from that specific author. So it's like a whole full circle situation, because I do believe that part of what we convey on platforms like this is also not just entertaining, but it's an edutainment type of situation where you get to learn more than what you knew, obviously, about other aspects of the reading / writing / literature community. So I really hope that it is something that you will find valuable, and that it is something that will keep you coming back for more. So if you have enjoyed or if I have enticed you by any means about what's ahead, please, I beg that you press subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to me on, and show me some love, give me some ratings, all that good stuff, because all of those things help in the algorithm of how well the show does. So whatever support you give from the start is something that I really would appreciate. And of course, conversation is very important to me as well. I'd like to encourage you to leave some comments on this episode, as well as on other platforms on social media where you might already follow me, or if you're not following me, be thinking of following me. Until next week, guys. That was short and sweet, I hope. Anyway, you'll let me know. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd love to hear your thoughts about today's episode, so why not search for me on social media? On Instagram, I'm Vuvu Vena _reads. On Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, I'm Vuvu Vena reads. And you can also find me on my website, which is www.vuvuvenareads.com. And until next week, I really do love you guys. Bye now.